I request you to all keep your phones on silent. We'll be beginning shortly. I request you to all keep your phones on silent. We'll be beginning shortly. very good afternoon to all of you here. This is so amazing to see all of you come from across the country for this very good afternoon to all of you here.
I'm Aniket. I'm one of the
This is so
vehicle designers
amazing
here
to
at
see
Ultraviolette
all of you come
Automotive,
from across the
and we are
country
so
for
proud
this special
to finally
I'm
launch
Aniket, the
I'm one of the vehicle
much-awaited
designers here at
F77.
Ultraviolette Automotive.
So without
And we are
further
so
ado,
proud to finally launch the much-awaited F77. So without further ado, let's give it up for our founders, Narayan Subramaniam and Neeraj Rajmohan. So without further ado, let's give it up for our founders, Narayan Subramaniam
Thank you,
and
Aniket.
Neeraj Rajmohan.
Thank you.
And a really good afternoon to one and all.
Thank you.
We're proud to be here
Thank you.
and a really good afternoon to one and all. We're proud to be here to talk about the F77, and that's what we're going to be doing. But before we get rolling, there's one thing I just want all of us to keep in mind. Today is a very special day, very special occasion. We are not here just to launch the F77. We are here to give you a glimpse into the ultraviolet universe and into the ultraviolet future. And on that note, let's get started. So, let me start off at a point in time where this whole journey began, right? And where it's led to today. So 2004, going back to when Neeraj and me were classmates in first year of university. So we were studying engineering back then. Not much of a clue of what the future holds in store. I think a lot of us resonate with that thought. And what we though found in common was a very, very strong creative technology inclination when it comes to going beyond what the syllabus has to offer. So over the next 4 years or so, we took part in a lot of national, international competitions, which involved us building all sorts of robots, aircrafts, helicopters, hydroplanes, name it, whatnot. And this sort of brought together different fields of design and engineering to make it happen. This required computers, it required electronics, mechanics, all of it in a very creative way to take shape. And this today is what the DNA of the company is. And what we have in common is, across Ultraviolette, is an interest in a 0 or 1 approach. And what do I mean by this? I think as a collective group, what we find more exciting is fundamental disruptions rather than incremental advancements. And that's all that's gone into starting from a blank sheet of paper to when the bikes come on stage in a bit, right? And today, glad to be joined by a team of 100+ people that share Yeah, so we're all here. Super proud moment for us to be doing this. And now, coming to what the vision of our collective group is, right? We are at a moment in time where, fortunately, we have the opportunity to influence or define the future of mobility. And that is what we are laser focused on for the foreseeable future. And that is our vision at Ultraviolette.
To add to what Narayan's saying, so I think when we started in 2016, right, there were multiple opportunities for us. We looked at the entire electric mobility sector, and we were thinking, what is it that we want to be addressing? There were opportunities in electric scooters, electric motorbikes, hypercars, electric aircrafts. So the question really was for us is like, what is it that we want to be working on? And through this entire process of understanding the space, what we came to realize was we want to be working on performance motorcycles for 2 very, very important reasons. One was because motorcycles are an emotion. What do we mean by that, right? Like, all of us at some point in the past, you ask anyone, someone who's even 70 years old or 80 years old, they'll remember the motorcycle that they owned. There is something very special about motorcycles, that it goes beyond a simple means of commute from A to B, which is what most other vehicles are, right? But when it comes to motorcycles, we all aspire to own particular motorcycles. We look up to them in movies, in cinemas, we even have posters of these on our walls as kids. So that's what's special about motorcycles, right? And that's what we're talking about when we say that motorcycles are an emotion. We'll get a little more into this a little later. The second reason that was that we got into motorcycles was because the technology simply didn't exist. And for most people, that comes across as a barrier. For us, that represented a challenge, right? And that's something we really, really appreciate. And the entire team that we have today is built around this notion that we will take on very, very difficult problems. What do I mean by that? I can just elaborate a little more. Typically, when you see electric vehicles, we're talking about power levels of anywhere from 3 to 10 kilowatts of peak power. What we are talking about are motorcycles that are putting out anywhere from 30 to 50 kilowatts of peak power. That's a 10x increase in power and current. And as a consequence of that, if you go back to physics, like I square R, you have losses that are an exponential factor, right? You're talking about 10x increase in power and current. You're talking about 100x increase in losses and efficiency, right? So to solve such problems requires fundamental innovation, ground up. That's what Narayan was talking about when he said the 0 or 1 approach. And that's exactly what we have done today. So we are quite proud of the team that we have today because some of these problems have been really, really hard to take on. And it requires a special kind of culture, a special kind of focus, and a special kind of attitude to get out what we have today.
And what you're about to see now is essentially the ultraviolet attitude, the energy, the passion towards product development.
What does it take to be the best? Dedication. What does it take to be the best? Dedication. Inspiration. Introspection. Or maybe it's just gallons of perspiration. No, really, what does it take? Loads of practice? A never-say-die perseverance? An almost insane passion? Or is it all a matter of patience? It takes all of this to be the best and more. You need to give it all you've got, and then some. Constantly, consistently, countlessly, over and over and over again, till you break out of your own barriers. Beyond your own expectations. Push harder than ever and transcend all boundaries. Where perfection becomes just a part of the process. Determined by the finish line. And that's when you realize being the best is not enough. You will want to be better. And the finish line is yet another start.
Yeah, so that gives me goosebumps watching it. I think it's in a nutshell the last 5-6 years of effort, passion, energy, like I said, that's gone into it. And like you just heard, our race to the start has just begun, right? And at this point, what we want to talk about is the core essence of a motorcycle. A motorcycle, like Neeraj mentioned earlier, is more of an ideology, it's an emotion. It's not just the product that takes you from A to B, it's something that takes you beyond, right? So we went through a process of about 1 year of design and research. And for us, the F77 needed to do two things. Needed to convey the futuristic mentality of all of us. Also needed to convey a sense of timelessness. And I think after a period of 1 year is when the sketch that you see behind me here was selected as the base for the concept that we now have, right? And coming to the motorcycle aspect of the F77. We all know, as motorcyclists, there are a few key emotions that all of us have in mind when it comes to riding. For some of us, it is an identity, an extension of our own persona. For some of us, it's the sheer thrill of riding a performance machine. For some others, it's the freedom. You want that weekend escape after a hectic weekday schedule, right? And for some others, it's focus. It's all about staying connected with your machine. Now, let me dig in a little deeper into how each of these emotions have played a huge role in sculpting the F77. Now, coming to the identity itself. So we all know when it comes to highly emotional products, the first decision is mentally made when the first time you see the product for real, right? And that is where the whole design process plays a driving role. And for us, the design process also had to make a statement. And what you see is representative of that statement through what we call the Ultra V signature lights. Now, this is as much a piece of art as it has been an engineering marvel. And this is something that we've gotten into the last minutest of details. And what you see behind me is sort of all the parts coming together to now have a very distinct identity for the motorcycle. Now, the headlight also needs to represent the intent of a motorcycle, and we believe we've sort of got it spot on. Now, moving on to being one with your machine, right? This, unlike four-wheelers to a large extent, when it comes to two-wheelers, the whole experience is defined by the rider and the machine coming together as one synchronous unit. And a lot of thought process has gone into how we've made this happen. For starters, all of us loved sports motorcycles. We've all wanted to own at some point a very sporty motorcycle, and also wished it was just as comfortable to use as an everyday vehicle as well. Now, this was a hard bridge for us to cross, and I think we've done a very good job here. What we've done is, when you look at the whole proportions, the ergonomics of the motorcycle, we've sort of increased the handlebar height just a tad compared to conventional sports motorcycles, and lowered the seat height just a bit to the max limit possible. As a consequence, we've got a great riding triangle, which is conducive to, like really let loose and have fun on the track. And at the same time, you want to use it as an everyday commuter. It is just very, very convenient as well. Now, all of this torque coming into play also needs very precise handling. So next part that we're talking about is the width of the handlebars as well. So we've sort of had a lot of studies done here and designed this just right to get all of that torque available to you with precise handling in every sort of use case or scenario. Right, so now what you see behind me is just how much effort has gone into sculpting this machine, right? This is a very important process in the design flow, sort of bridging between creative design and engineering. So what happens here is about a 4 to 6 month process where the clay is hand sculpted. We have riders of multiple dimensions sitting on the bike, giving us feedback. And what you see here is how adaptive the F77 is from a height range of about 5'4" to about 6'4" is what you see here. Right, and then talking about what the design means to us. For us, the future was bold, progressive, and sophisticated. And that meant that very intent has to be reflected in the exterior design of the motorcycle as well. And what you see here, and what I probably encourage you to maybe look at in a little more detail, you will not find a single bolt head or screw visible anywhere on the design of the motorcycle, which goes back to our philosophy derived from aviation, right? As streamlined as possible, as futuristic as possible. And there are not too many other products that can stake this claim, which also gives you a sense of how difficult this process has been for us to sort of get in place. And the other aspect of any well-designed premium product is of course the attention to detail. When it comes to a motorcycle especially, every single part on the bike talks to us, it says something to us. And we've sort of kept all of those factors in mind, right from the rider footrest or the pillion footrest to more complex things like the headlamp unit or the tail lamp unit. The same attention to detail has gone into every single aspect on the motorbike. Now, coming to the next aspect or the next emotion, which is thrill. Right? I don't think I need to elaborate much on thrill. Let's just look at what we've got in store. Yeah, that's what this machine can do. 0 to 60 in less than 3 seconds, 0 to 100 in less than 8 seconds, and a top speed north of 150 kilometers. And talking about thrill, we just threw this in here. Let's look at a flyby of the bike. Yes, so that's the whole thrill aspect of the electric motorcycle. Now, coming to freedom, a very core emotion for all of us that love motorcycles, right? Freedom is being able to go on that impulsive ride. You've had a really busy week, you just want to take off for the weekend. The F77 allows you to do that. The next aspect is freedom from range anxiety. And of late, there's been a lot of talk around electric vehicles being predominantly urban vehicles. So we took it as a challenge to see how far we could push that riding radius. And what we're looking at is equivalent to a full tank of petrol on a conventional motorcycle, close to 300 kilometers per single charge. Now, of course, the next topic related to range is how do I charge my motorcycle? We've got two options. We've got a standard charger and we've got a boost charger as well. Now, all of these specs are going to be available to you on the website. The boost charger can do over 70 kilometers per hour of charge. Now, what we've also kept in mind from a motorcycle perspective is we've designed some really cool panniers that are able to facilitate how you carry the boost charger with you on a long ride. More details on this later. The next aspect is how simple it is to charge. So we've got all the smart tech built into the vehicle, into the chargers. All you need is just a plug point. It's as simple as charging your mobile, your laptop, and then it's a plug and recharge process. So this applies to any sort of 15 amp outlet. It could be something in your basement. It could be something you encounter at a dhaba on a longer ride. All of this should be able to facilitate recharging the vehicle. The next aspect is focus. When we talk about focus, we talk about a connected experience between the rider and the machine. But when we started defining focus, we wanted to speak about being connected one level deeper, being connected not just to the machine, but through the whole ownership cycle of the F77. So this is where our F77 mobile application comes into play. Everything from ride analytics, diagnostics, fine-tuning your performance requirements, locked on your vehicle, all of it and more available on the app. This itself warrants a 2-hour discussion, but we'll keep it rolling for now. And The other part of being focused is all about your state of mind. You might be on a weekend ride, you want to glide through the valleys, or you might be on your way to work on a Monday morning, you want to combat the traffic, or you might be on a racetrack and you just want to go ballistic. And these are the three ride modes on the F77. We've got the glide, the combat, and the ballistic mode.
Yeah, I think the next part of what we want to talk about is, what really enables all of this, right? So we spoke about the performance, we spoke about aspects of, the focus, the identity, but all of this has a very foundational basis, right, which has to be very robust, and that's where the safety, the testing comes into picture, and that's something that we want to focus on, right? When we talk about safety, we are talking about safety that kicks in a heartbeat, in a fraction of a second. What we have on our systems today, whether it's the battery management system, the vehicle control unit, or the entire vehicle itself as an integrated unit, we're talking about protection mechanisms and protocols that kick in microseconds. If a typical heartbeat is 800 milliseconds, what we're talking about is 8 microseconds, right? 1/10,000th the amount of time that it takes for a typical heartbeat. And this applies across the vehicle, right? And these are systems that are constantly running. You don't need to be wondering or thinking about these systems. These are always running in the background. They're ensuring that you have a safe ride experience, right? Now you could still ask us, what does this really mean on the road, right? You're talking about electrical systems, electronic systems, vehicle control units, battery management systems, but what is this really mean on the road, right? And that's something that we spent a lot of time on as well, right? This is, if you notice, there's a constant theme that we follow a very uncompromising approach to all of these things. We spend a lot of time, we go into a lot of detail to solve some of these problems and challenges, right? So one of the other things that we did is we spent a lot of time on testing and validating these vehicles, right? And it's not just from a simulation perspective, these are actually test cases that we put the vehicles through. While the F77 is predominantly, designed to be an urban sports motorcycle, what we have subjected the vehicles to is really we push them to their limits, right? What you can see is, several times the wheel is not in contact with the ground, right? You can see the terrain that we've really pushed the vehicles to. So we've gone over and above to sort of push these vehicles to their very limits to get to where we are today.
And I think it's next stop is probably Mars.
Yeah, that's the only place where we haven't tested the vehicles. We really pushed it to its very limit. And there's another foundational aspect that I want to talk about next. So you see all of this insane power and engineering, and that is provided, that power is provided by this motor, right? This motor that we spoke about in 2019, we spoke about, about 90 Newton meters of torque. Today, we're over 100 Newton meters of torque with this motor, right? And we've really pushed it to its limit. In fact, most of these motors are used in aerospace applications, and we've put them on a motorcycle. And that's really talking about what is capable from this motor. In fact, when we talk about this torque, it's really hard to explain it on the screen, because you really need to ride it to get that sense of it. Because with the flick of a wrist, all of that torque is available across the entire RPM range, right? And that's something that is never seen on a typical IC engine motorcycle, and that's where the experience really goes beyond a typical IC engine bike. The other aspect, the other foundational aspect to being able to provide this kind of insane power on this motorcycle is the battery pack, right? What we're talking about, this is the SRB10. This is the largest battery pack on a motorcycle in India today, right? This is 10.3 kilowatt hour in terms of capacity, 307 kilometers IDC range. In fact, this battery pack is so advanced, we get a lot of requests from other industries. We're talking about requests coming in from the aerospace industry, from the military side for these battery packs. But first, the F77. And that's our focus, right? So when we refer to this battery pack, we usually refer to it as a battery pack from the future. And you'll get a sense of why we talk about that.
And I think at this point, we want to showcase what our vision over the next foreseeable future is. So let's fly right into the future. Yeah, and we are just getting started. So on that note, let's turn the lights off, clear the runways, and get the airstrike on display. And folks, we need the runway clear because coming right up is the F77 Shadow. And up next, we've got the poster boy of the lot, the F77 laser. Bikes are going to be here. There's a lot more bikes on display, not to worry. Cool. So that is the F77 lineup for you. The laser, the airstrike, and the shadow. Cool. Now, let's talk about what these motorcycles mean in a deeper context.
Thank you.
We are talking about 2930 kilowatts of power. We're talking about 95, and like Neeraj mentioned, 100 Newton meters of torque. And of course, the largest battery pack on two wheels. Now, add to that, you have the ballistic modes, and you have preload adjustable suspensions, and a whole host of other features as well. Now, the important question, the price point. Now, this vehicle is called the F77 Recon. Recon stands for the largest range possible on this lineup. And the F77 Recon today, ex-showroom at 4.55 lakhs. And we did mention we have multiple variants. So we've got the F77 original that comes in with the second largest battery pack on two wheels. And this ex-showroom price at, wait for it, 3.8 lakhs. Now, that is just the tip of the iceberg. I think there are a few important aspects we want to speak about because we are just at the beginning of the electric revolution. So, Neeraj?
Yeah. I think, just a moment. Yeah, guys, relax. So I think there are other aspects, very practical aspects of going electric that we also want to talk about, right? While there's the